Hi there, welcome to the new lecture in this section Concepts of Big Data. In the previous lecture you watched the story of data, which must have cleared all your concepts regarding data and the history of data so far. Now in this lesson, let's understand what is big data. Big data. You might have heard this term number of times, as it remained the hottest buzzword across all the industries, and it also remained a hype in the Gartner's Hype Cycle report for years. Well, you must know about Gartner. Gartner is one of the top business media, and it keeps the industries well informed about emerging trends, technologies, and innovations. So to elaborate, Gartner delivers reports, basically white papers, which are made by doing lots and lots of research, which helps the global technology companies to make informed decisions on the key initiatives. For an example, if a company wants to adopt a particular technology, Gartner's report will help them to choose a right proprietary product for that technology. One of the Gartner's report is Gartner's Hype Cycle report. Every year, Gartner releases Gartner's Hype Cycle report following this methodology that provides a graphical representation of the maturity and adoption of new technologies and applications. The term big data first triggered in the Gartner's Hype Cycle report in 2011. As you can see here, the term was technology trigger. During this time, early proof of concepts on big data and the media interest triggered the significant publicity of the term big data, and the hype of big data was just started. Next year, in 2012, it started influencing the market, and as you can see here, it reached the phase peak of inflated expectation. These early times, some companies started to taking actions to address the need of big data. In 2013, it reached the peak of hype, and during this period, it inflated industries and encouraged many companies to take action on their big data by a number of success stories. The term big data remained in the Gartner's Hype Cycle report until 2014. Big data was not seen in Gartner's Hype Cycle report in 2015, as Gartner stated that big data is no longer a buzzword, it has gone mainstream. Today, this term is normal, as many companies started realizing the real potential of big data and also adopted the technologies to deal with big data. The techniques, concepts, uses, and ideas of big data is shared by most of the people and professionals, making the term conventional. But what exactly big data is? Because of emerging new technologies, new devices, and communication means like social networking sites, the amount of data being generated by humans is growing rapidly every day. So much that researchers and analysts stated that more than 90% of the world's data was generated in the last few years. But what exactly the term big data means to the techies? Big data refers to the dynamic, large, and disparate volumes of data being generated by humans and machines. Big data is dynamic, with too many different formats, and it is being generated with no constant speed. And the term big data itself indicates that data is just too big in size. Because of its nature, big data is different in many ways from the small amount of data. Big data is just too different from the data that is usually stored and processed in the databases like RDBMS, which mostly handles transactional and operational data. Big data cannot be compared with the data that fits well into the rows and columns of your Excel sheet. Today, humans generate lots of data on social media, for example, sentiments on a product. This information is helpful for companies to do sentimental analysis. Machines also generate lots and lots of data, for example, a log file. Now you will learn more about the data sources in the further lecture in this section. Big data is not just one single large data set. Rather, it's a collection of many large data sets. Now, to make it easier for you to understand what is big data, let's visit and see some of the real big data sets hosted online. Let's visit AWS Public Datasets website. It's a centralized repository for large and big data sets. Now let's click here to visit the website. So here you are at AWS Public Datasets website. AWS, which is a cloud company, has hosted many large datasets here for free of charge for the community, and anyone can access and process these datasets. Many people access data from here to get experience working with the large datasets. This website has the list of many large datasets which are stored on two possible storages. One is Amazon S3, that is Amazon Simple Storage Service, which is a storage service on AWS Cloud Platform. Another one is Amazon Elastic Block Store or EBS, which is another kind of storage at AWS. Let's see the information of some big datasets hosted here. Now let's take a look at the first dataset listed here, the Landsat dataset. So this is Landsat dataset on AWS. This dataset is being generated by the Landsat, that is the series of satellites which are generating continuous satellite imagery of Earth. Landsat satellites are continuously generating data and at high speed, and as said here, this data is made available here within hours of production. Let's see more about this data. Just look at the format of it. It contains three formats, one of which is JPG images. Lack of structure and huge volume makes the conventional database management system impossible to handle this data. This dataset is stored on Amazon S3. Let's take a look at the another dataset. Let's click here on this Google Books Ngram dataset. Here's the information of Google Books Ngram dataset. Google Ngram is a collection of dataset that Google have created over time using text of all the books. Just look at the size of this dataset. You can also visit the Google Books Ngram website, where Google have hosted an Ngram viewer which actually processes this dataset to show you the results. You will also find collections of more raw dataset on this website, which you can download to run your own experiments. Another one here is Multimedia Commons. As said here, this dataset is collection of audio and visual features and licensed Flickr images and videos from Yahoo. This code right here stands for Yahoo Flickr Creative Commons 100 million dataset. This dataset contains around 99.2 million images and nearly 800,000 videos from Flickr. You will find more about the applications and uses of this dataset right here on this page. You can see here it comes under the category multimedia and it's in the plain text format. This dataset is text heavy, which is unstructured data. This data is freely available on AWS S3. Let's see another one here. You can find Common Crawl Corpus. Corpus is the collection of the text. So this dataset contains a corpus of web crawl data composed of over 5 billion web pages. Let's click here to find out more. Now look at the size of this dataset. It's 541 terabyte. That's big data. You can also browse the big datasets by category here. Here is the list of all the available categories of the datasets. You can also see the list of all the available datasets here by clicking on this link. Now I'm sure you have the better understanding and view of big data by looking at these real big datasets hosted here. You will also find more interesting datasets here like public MER archives from Apache Software Foundation and the Million Song dataset, which contains metadata for a million contemporary popular music tracks. Just imagine the insights we can get from processing all these datasets. Just to wrap up, the term big data is given to the data when the data is just too large and cannot be handled by traditional database management system. It is being generated and increasing too fast, and it has too many different formats, which makes it difficult to handle it. Because of these problems, big data cannot be stored and processed in traditional database management system. In short, the data that cannot be stored and processed in traditional database management system is big data. Here, large refers to the size of the data, that means the data is in huge volume. Fast refers to the speed of the data, that is the velocity. And format refers to the type of the data, that is the variety. This is widely accepted definition of big data known as 3 V's. Gartner's analyst Doug Lane came up with this famous 3 V's back in 2001. Now, some researchers came up with more V's to define big data. You will learn more about it in the further lecture. In spite of many challenging attributes of big data, today many companies and organizations believe that data is new oil, so precious because if processed and analyzed, big data helps driving the business better way by minimizing the risk of failure with the help of lots and lots of information from many different sources, and as the information is the new oil of 21st century. For now, if you have understood what is big data, please proceed to the next lecture in which you will learn more about the attributes of big data. Else, if you have any questions, please post it in the questions and answer section. See you in the next lecture.